welcome back to Ion Radio. Today we have the Backseat Admiral, and I am John. So hopefully you guys can hear me. It's been a while since I've done this whole live stream thing. I've been putting out Backseat, but not live. So if you can hear me, let me know in the chat so we can move forward. I did change my mic setting a little bit, so hopefully you guys can hear me a little bit better. So let me know that as well. So I'm just going to wait for that and then continue on. James Blackburn is in chat. It says, congrats again to Mama and Baby. Thank you very much. For those of you that don't know. Okay, good. You can hear me. Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, there's been a new addition to my family this last week. Or actually last week now. Things have been very busy. I have a beautiful baby boy with my wife. His name's John Edward. He was born last week, Tuesday night, on the 15th. So there's been a lot going on in my life. Like, honestly, like I barely made it to backseat. Cause with a new baby, like you just nap when you can and sleep whenever you can. And, so he finally was fed and was sleeping, and I told my wife, I'm like, I want to wake up, probably like 8:30, 8 o'clock, and get everything with backseat going. And she just called me like to wake me up from the other room, because she's like, your backseat's at like 9 o'clock, and it's like almost 9, and I wake up and I'm like, oh. So I had to run in here and get that all started. But he's doing very well, and my wife is recovering very well as well. So excited about both those things. So thank you everyone for your support through everything like that. Okay, so tonight we are going to be talking about our episode finale for season 3. It went by really fast this whole season. So let me look at chat, see who else is here, and then we're going to get going. It says that I'm dropping packets, which I shouldn't be. Everything on my end shows good, so hopefully you guys are seeing this just fine. Okay, so everyone can hear me. It looks like the sound is doing better now. When I was doing live recording, I had a little bit of extra time, and I played with some of the settings. So, okay, let's jump right to the fleets. So, is this doing okay? It looks like it. Hold on. YouTube likes throwing me for a loop. Excellent condition. Why are you yelling at me, YouTube? Okay, so today we have the big battle. So this is again this is the first time this is big battle. So this battle ended up being pretty one-sided, but that was kind of the idea. Was we wanted to show a point. And the point is how crazy good Onagers actually are when it's just like a hardcore, here's an Onager list to mess you up. And so when we were talking about making it and things like that, I told Ken, like, just so you know, like, make a fleet that's good against something that's not friendly. Like this, I'm not bringing a friendly fleet at all. And I also need to borrow a ship. And Ken was like, okay, I can do that. And he's like, let's see. If you need to borrow a ship, because he knows clearly how many ships we have, because we have like an inventory just in case. Right there. So my fleet is 2 interdictors, a Star Destroyer, and 3 Onagers, with Gazanti transport to pass out tokens and keep things alive, with the 2 stay off me for at least 1 turn fighter screen. I mean, it does it at 400 points, and it kind of does it again at 800. So for those of you that aren't aware, 800 point monster truck is your flagship has to be a huge / large ship. All ships in the game have to be medium or large ships. And for every large ship that is not your flagship in your fleet, you unlock like 1 small ship. So then you basically can have small ships in the fleet. And only one of them can be a flotilla. So with those limits, This is basically how to get bigger ships onto the table for a big battle of 800 points. Also, fighters are limited to less than 150 points of fighters. Still limited to only 4 aces, so you don't get like insane amount of aces and fighter bog down. So that is important to take into consideration. So my flagship is an Imperial Simoon refit. It has Darth Vader, Commander Vanto, gunnery teams, Intensify Firepower, Spinal Armament, and XI-7s. And I believe it also has gunnery teams on it because it's supposed to. Let me check real fast. Sometimes our slides aren't perfect, but it should have gunnery teams. Let me find where this fleet is. That's a new fleet. Yes, it has gunnery teams. It has it right there. Oh my gosh, my new dad brain. Sorry guys. It literally has it right there. And I read it. It's going to be good. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to be learning lots of things. So this is basically just your standard Simon that I like. With Vader, you don't need any reroll abilities because you got that contain, and if you need to, you can spend it out. Intensify Firepower allows fleet-wide abilities, which is really good when you have like just a whole big fleet of big ships. And Vanto's there to basically help power Intensify Firepower, because you kind of only need it for turns 2, 3, 4, 5 to get tokens, and then 6 you can just toss them out the airlock to do Intensify. Everything else is just like more red dice, and XI-7s means that you don't have to worry about redirects, which is really good. Next one. So this is interdictor number 1 for me. This is the interdictor that was the white interdictor. It has Taskmaster Grint, Projection Experts, Disposable Capacitors, Targeting Scramblers, G7X Gravity Well Projectors, Point Defense Ion Cannons, and the interdictor title. This is a helper interdictor that is meant to stay alive. It's going to take a lot of firepower to bring this bad boy down. Taskmaster Grint is for sure the set to engineering. So basically you do engineering, and here's 8 engineering and you're healing. And if you're not shooting at this ship, then Projection Experts is passing the shields from the ship to a different ship that needs it more. And if you are attacking the ship, this ship's just going to heal. Disposable Capacitors gives it a little bit more firepower that one turn until you close into blue range. Targeting Scramblers is really good at keeping itself and other ships alive when you're being attacked at close range. So basically, it's just daring you to come close to it, and then all of its abilities start triggering. So like Point Defense Ion Cannons allows you a reroll of a dice at close range. Targeting Scramblers allows you a reroll of dice on you and an opponent at close range. Interdictor says that I get to do Targeting Scramblers twice then per turn. And the G7 Gravwell means that you have a few... Come on. There we go. Reconnected. Targeting Scramblers, and then another G7X Gravwell. So that means now I have 2 tokens that I can put in Ken's deployment zone that he has to start at speed 0. You really want to close the distance with this fleet because of the next slide, but you can't because I'm starting you at speed 0. So the next is 3 Onager testbeds. And to show how strong Onagers are, I brought it with... Yeah, I know. Sorry, guys. I don't know why it's lagging today. Mainly because it probably is mad that I haven't done Backseat in a couple weeks. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, for some reason YouTube and OBS want to be super, super slow today. I don't know why. So I apologize for that. But there's 3 Onager test beds, which is the cheap version, which is the better version, with the better dice pool for the ignition. With Intel Officer, because I'm only making 1 real attack a turn with it anyway. And then the Orbital Bombardment Particle Cannons, which means I can attack at red. I can place my ignition at red and shoot out to double red with the extreme range with the Onager. Cool. That's perfect. And then Vader allows me to re-roll everything because, you know, if you're at double red range, you can't salvo me and you can't attack me, so I don't need to worry about salvo. So that means on every single attack that this ship makes, I get to say you can't use that token, and I get full re-rolls. Not broken. And I'll do that 3 times. So have fun. And also, you need to close and kill it, and they're cheaper than my interdictors and my Star Destroyer. So you have like a real hard choice of, do you go after the Onagers or you go after all the support? Well, the support's there to support the Onagers, and the Onagers are going to kill you well before you kill all the support. So it's kind of like my trading pieces in this chess game are pretty powerful. And then I have a Gazanti with Hondo, because sometimes, you just want to get that extra token on Darth Vader to power the Intensify. And he has CommsNet to pass tokens out to all my other stuff, such as interdictors with engineering, or, he just does this thing with fighters. Speaking of fighters, I have two of them. It is Sienna Ray and Valen Rudor, and they're just here to buy me at least one turn of not getting completely annihilated with fighters. So as you can see, all of these parts of this fleet are very, very simple. You have my standard Simoon build, which I know how to fly. They have standard interdictor basically builds, which I know how to fly and enjoy, but then I just have two of them, which also I've played double interdictor with pretty much this exact same build before, so that's really powerful. We know how that works. And then I brought 3 Onagers that are basically just point and shoot. Point, okay, that's going to be killed, especially when I can hit it with 3 Onagers in the single turn with intel officer. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, I'm going to strip all your tokens immediately from it. Thanks, Windows. Maybe I should just update Windows. I'll probably do that after this. So that's my fleet. So, like, would I make any changes for my fleet? No, because they're all just copy-pasted parts from other fleets that I really liked into this bigger fleet. And then Darth Vader just allows it to do its whole thing because all my ships have extra tokens. And then I have Intensify. So it's like, even red dice for me will eventually be nice when you can just re-roll them and set them to hits. Okay, Ken's fleet. So Ken brought Akbar. I actually really like Ken's fleet, and there's only like one thing that I would actually change with his fleet, and it wouldn't change the points. It would just be like a straight card swap. So it's nothing too crazy. He has a Starhawk Battleship Mark 1, which there's been a lot of talk, and Starhawks are extremely powerful, but they're nowhere as powerful as if they have Agate on it. Like, you can put them in any fleet, and they're okay. Like, they're hard to kill. Not impossible, but Agate is what really makes the Starhawk super, super powerful. That's at least my opinion, and a lot of people share that opinion too. And you can see in this fleet, if Ken had Agate instead of Akbar, this ship probably would have been alive for at least another turn. So Akbar allows you to shoot more dice out the side, which is really good when you want to shoot at long range, and it's like a fleet-wide ability. That's why you see Darth Vader and Akbar in 800 points games when they're not necessarily as good, Akbar is, at the lower point games, just because they're fleet-wide, so they scale up when you increase the points of the ship. Like I said, damage control officer is here, mainly because all the Onagers have special criticals, and this allows you to cancel that. Gunnery teams is good because if you can get multiple ships into that front arc is super powerful. Or if you could get multiple ships into that side arc with Akbar, you can gunnery team off both of them. So these are good upgrades for it. You have leading shots, which allows you at blue range to reroll all of your shots, which is also super important. Let me click on this real fast. Which is also super important. And then you have XI7s, which is the same reason I use XX7s. It just completely ignores the redirects. So with leading shots and all the dice and Akbar being thrown in, hopefully you can get an accuracy, block the brace. XI7s take care of all the redirects and all the damage punches through. Amnesty is a title that allows the ship to take an evade, which actually helps against things like Onagers, because you can cancel dice at extreme range with it on a large ship. That's pretty unique and special. And then when an enemy overlaps you, you may deal 1 additional face down damage cards to both sides, which is just funny because I have no clue or no plan on actually moving any of my ships for at least a couple of turns. So you'd have to get all the way across the board and then me choose to not be speed 0 to hit you with it. So that's mainly you're spending 6 points for an evade, which with this ship is very useful. Okay, let's click over to the next slide. And then he has 2 MC-80 command cruisers, and both of these are actually equipped very, very lean and to the point. Something Ken had told me that he had learned about our first 2 big battle games. Like our first game was like 1,200 points of insanity, and then we like toned it down to this 800 format. Was that it's really hard to keep track of all the different types of ships with all the different types of upgrades, and like specifically the 1,200 point game when he had every single ship completely unique. Like which ship was which was he doing. So for 800 point games, he's decided to simplify things and be like, if it's this type of ship, it's all coming equipped with the same thing, just for sanity. And you can see that here. I actually really like this. And when we get to talking about how things were set up and how we went about playing the game, I'll explain more why, and you can see. But engine tax is huge for this ship because it's only a speed 2 ship, so it's barely moving. But it allows you to be pseudo speed 3 or pseudo speed 2, only going speed 1, which is really, really good. Electronic countermeasures helps keep it alive by allowing you to be like, okay, I'll still brace. I'll ignore that accuracy on my brace this turn and keep it alive. And then it has leading shots. And it also has XI7 turbo lasers, which this is already what we were talking about. If you can target and get rid of redirects on multiple ships when you're attacking, that's amazing. So like so far all the ships that we talked about from Ken, you can just redirect once. So redirects fleet wide at this point are pretty useless. It has really strong side arcs, so if you can use engine text and like move quickly and then just park your ship broadside in front of the enemy, you can dump a ton of dice downrange at with Akbar. Like that's lots and lots of dice downrange with Akbar, so that's the whole purpose of this. Next, he has Assault Frigate Mark II-B, which again, these are little tiny gun ships in this, and you know Akbar loves it because he can just shoot then 5 red dice for pretty cheap out the sides. And here's where we come across the first upgrade that I'm like, I would change it. It is flight controllers. This fleet doesn't need flight controllers. When you get to the fighters, you'll see that there isn't enough of flight control, like fighters or fighter combat, to really warrant spending 12 points into this. What this could have been just used for is gunnery teams. I would have put gunnery teams on this, and then when these move into the side arc, they're shoot that with Akbar, shoot that with Akbar, move on. 2 different targets, focus down. He has advanced projectors, which allows that redirect to be used to use all the shields. It worked. Ken soaked up a lot of damage from me using that. And then XI7. So far, all of Ken's combat ships have XI7s, meaning that I can't use redirects of any kind anywhere. So as soon as like multiple ships line up shots on an arc with Akbar, that's just damage that's being punched right through, and I can't do anything about it. So this is good. Next ship is a CR-90 Corvette A, and this is really just probably for activation, and it's amazing ship for its points. It punches way above its point scale. So turbo laser reroute circuit. It has 2 evades. Here's 2 damage, guaranteed every single attack that it makes. And then Tampiad 5, I think, is there just to play token shenanigans, because Ken doesn't really have a lot of token control throughout the fleet. And then you have like a speed, command 4 Starhawk. This just allows you a little bit extra control. Probably could have gone with Jaina's Light, because it was just better for just shooting things. But this works for a fleet-wide ability, so I'm fine with that. Then you have a GR-75 medium transport with Torn Far. Torn Far should be a commander. That's always been my opinion for years. I haven't actually said that in a while in Backseat, but her ability should be a commander ability. Commander Torn Far would be a commander I'd probably take all the time. It has boosted comms. This GR75 is just here to command squadrons. That's it. And push them around the table and be an activation. And that's what it does. And it does that pretty well. And then with Torn, it does aid the rebels because all of their squadrons pretty much attack with strictly blue dice because of the era that the game was made in. And then you have some fighters. And this is why I say that there's not enough fighters to warrant 2 flight controllers. And you have Nora Wesley, which is cool. If the Y-Wings get hit crits, you're just evaporating my shields even faster than just using XI7s. And then 4 Y-Wings. So you have a total of 5 fighters. And you can spend 12 points on fighter upgrades for it on those 2 potato ships. So for me personally, I would be like, hey, let's not pour that many points into it. Gunnery teams will just keeping on shooting at ships compared to the Y-Wings flight controllers. Like, you could activate all of them and get 1 dice against squadrons, but I just don't think it's worth it. Also to note, this isn't a stop the other opponent fighter screen at all because they're heavy right here. So Nora stops fighters and can keep them engaged, but these guys do not. So if for some reason I played a super heavy fighter list, Ken's fighters really had almost no ability to stop me from just jumping through him into attacking, which he's probably fine with because he's just going to pepper down with the 2 blue. So neither here nor there. So that's the 2 fleets as a whole. Like I said, the only thing I would really change with Ken's fleet is the flight controllers to gunnery teams, just because there's not the point investment needing 2 of them. So let's talk about objectives. I won the bid, and I chose to go second. So I gave the standard choices to Ken, which are Surprise Attack, Contested Outpost, and Solar Corona. And for me, in what Ken and I have discussed, is Surprise Attack is really, really bad for Ken, because here's your Starhawk, place it right here, and I get to line up all my Onagers against you and start you at speed 0 with my token. So guarantee pretty much on your first turn, I'm hitting you with 3 Onagers right off the bat, which is lots of fun for me. Not fun for Ken. And then I just like send out navs, and because Ken has no ability to really control his tokens or pass out tokens, his entire fleet's going to be like very much at speed 0 for a very long time because of Surprise Attack. First turn raid is nav. I guess you're not even going to start to move on any of your ships until turn 3 almost. And then the Onagers are just annihilating you, so you don't pick that. Contested Outpost would have been a close pick for the objective, but it gives me pretty much a guaranteed 120 points. It allows Ken to know exactly where my fleet's going to be, and then he can just start across from me. But I only need 1 ship to hold it, and I have 2 interdictors and a Star Destroyer that don't really want to be fighting. They just want to be sitting, and that gives them something to do while the Onagers just sit there at speed 0, shelling anything that comes toward the outpost. So that's also a pretty hard one. In Solar Corona, if you look at the fleets, Ken only has like me out deployed, or out deployments by 1, because he has 5 fighters versus my 2, and I think we have the same amount of ships. So he doesn't really actually lose that much knowledge compared to the other objectives that they would give me for choosing Solar Corona. He denies me points, and he allows himself the ability to immediately start moving his ships instead of me saying, you can start at speed 0 and you can't do navigate to speed up from that, which is what Surprise Attack is. And Contested Outpost is like, we still go back and forth. I know where all of his important stuff is. He knows where all my important stuff are. And I get 120 points for free. So like, it's not really good objective choices for Ken. So he went with Solar Corona. Like, if you lose an accuracy here or there when you're like throwing handfuls of dice, doesn't really matter because it's only on that initial handful that you do. So you gather your dice, you roll it, and then Akbar gets added in. So Ken has like a built-in ability to almost ignore the Solar Corona side effects. And then all of his ships have leading shots in XI 7, so he doesn't really need accuracies even if he got one. And then leading shot says that if he got blanks or anything like that at medium range, he can just take out a dice and re-roll it. So I get it. He chose Solar Corona, and that's what we ended up playing. So before I break down how the game actually played out and talk about what our strategy was, I do not want to shut down. I'm a mess tonight, guys. All of that, I'm going to go to chat and see what you guys are saying. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, post it in the chat. I'll read it, and we'll go from there. Okie doke. A lot of congrats on the baby. Thank you very much. He is amazing. It's been a blast being a dad so far. There's nothing better. I'm really, really happy with being a dad. I remember those no sleep new baby days. Looking forward to it again in a few months. Oh, congratulations, Apollyon, 1221, on an upcoming baby. And again, thank you very much. Baby is lagging the stream. Yes, that's what it is. We're gonna blame the baby for that. He's new. That's why it's doing that. The old battle strategies. I enjoy Captain Nina on a super Starry because a super with an evade is just hilarious. It is. It's just so hard to put him into that officer slot, though. Like, only having 3 officers in a super Star Destroyer and it being usually your only ship that you can bring, like, it is such high. It's like the most contested spot on the super Star Destroyer. Like, most of the super Star Destroyer builds, I can just, like, plop the standard, like, upgrade cards in, but like what determines what type of build that Super Star Destroyer actually is all reliant only on those officers. So a lot of times, like, by the point, like, I know like 1 or 2 of the officers that I want, and then it comes to that third, I usually don't lean toward Nina because there's other people that want that spot, but he actually fits quite well into it because you don't really need the contains, and evading dice at long range is pretty funny. Tinsko says, yep, completely broken except for the fact that you never really used it. I don't know what you're talking about, so if you're in the chat, explain a little bit more to me. I'm sure it was timed roughly where I said something and you were agreeing with me, but I said a lot and I wasn't looking at chat, and there's at least 10 seconds delay. So, Tins Coinson, if you're still in the chat, let me know more what you were meaning by your comments and I'll get back to it. Okay, so I've caught up so far with the chat. Again, if you have any comments or thoughts, I'm probably going to be taking some pretty hot takes on Onagers, as you can probably guess again. In a few minutes. So let's jump back to the map and I'll show what went down. Okay, so here is the above view of post the start or post, deployment. And I actually really threw Ken for a loop here. Because usually when you have the speed 0 zones, what you do is you start on like one side of the board and you move your way over, or you like negate the center of the board. And what I was doing is I started both of them negating the corners. So from here to here, this whole area is dead. So if you start on this side of the map, moving toward the middle, it's a dead zone. And then I put it here, which if you started on this side of the map, moving toward the middle, there's the dead zone. So you have this little tiny zone in the middle that is okay to put your ships at. And I did this very much so intentionally. And the reason for this is it actually divides then the ships into 3 actual engagement zones instead of like maybe 1 or 2. Like if I just knocked out this whole side here, or if I knocked off the middle, it makes it really easy for Ken to deploy. He just starts at speed 0. All of his ships across the board, speed 0, plopped it, and then he slowly moves forward, which is why we talked about why he will never choose surprise attack, because you don't want to be stuck in the speed 0 with facing Onagers and then also have raids so that you can't use your tokens. It's a terrible like feeling. So what I did here is he wanted to deploy in the center. But if you deploy in the center, there's not enough space with what I left him to not have something on either side and or both sides that is speed 0. And with both sides being at speed 0, like, do you overload one side at speed 0 and then nothing on the other? Or do you, like, split it? Like, it just becomes a very hard decision. And Ken basically is like, Starhawk over here can hold its own. The MC-80s, I don't believe, were put into the speed 0, so they were fine. And then this whole fleet over here is at speed 0 as well. So me, knowing that I just really wanted to kill the Starhawk as soon as possible because it has Akbar on it, and it's fun to try to explode the big ships on it. So I set up with Star Destroyer as far over as possible, so then it's kind of out of the fight. It's just sitting here, and it can come through and then slowly clean up because it's a Psy Moon at long range as I knock stuff over. And then the Onagers, so then I can fire downfield, and then I can just do a clean sweep. So the Star Destroyer and these guys are just clean sweeping the board as they move across. And then the interdictors are just sitting here, and they're going to anchor that turn. So they're going to keep everything alive as I rotate my entire fleet through Ken's. That's the idea. Then I have my Gazanti, which is going to move behind all of them because it's not really a combat ship compared to the firepower that Ken can put out with all these with Akbar. Like, it stands 0 chance of staying alive. So it's just going to move back here, and it's going to just pass out tokens mainly to my 2 interdictors, which are the focal point of my suite with engineering and things like that. And then I'll have them close, my fighters close to it, so then I can launch my fighters to try to lock Ken's down right where it is. So that was kind of like a lot of information on how we deployed. So that's how I did. Ken's 2 ships here, they have engine tech, so they could jump out, but if they jump out before the Starhawk, then they just get annihilated by the Onagers. The Starhawk needs to spend a couple turns to speed up to move in, and that gives me some time. This fleet over here, while these are his faster ships, which is why he put them all on the one side, because as they gain speed, they can attack at the same time. They're out of the combat for a good chunk of time because I plan on just going to speed 0, but, you know, Ken doesn't necessarily know that. So, like, it's going to take a long time for there to be engagement from this flank over to here, or from this ship into me. So this will just sit here and kill things as it comes toward me. And that's one of the reasons why I think Ken didn't use engine tech as much on his 2 main ships, is because he wanted to have the same time contact, which I put these tokens out to completely try to negate a same time contact because there's a lot of moving pieces now. So that's kind of deployment. So to no one's real surprise at all, my fleet pretty much stayed speed 0. Onagers all speed 0, and I believe this ship here was speed 0 too. I had to move my other interdictor forward a little bit, mainly because I realized how many turns I was going to stay at speed 0, and the Gazanti needed a little bit of space to move. As you can see, the Star Destroyer is starting to swing out, because if I can get it to this side of the table and then like cut through, then I have, you know, it's going to be the hammer. These are going to be the anvils because they look like anvils. Or other way around, whatever you want. And these guys can shoot, and then he comes in, and like you have no tokens, and you're going to get hit by a Vader Psy Moon, re-rolling everything with XI7. So that's like, you know, 7 dice plus an auto hit with re-rolls. Boom, you're pretty much dead. And you can see at the turn 1, this is why you don't really need turn 1 shooting, is because here's 3 Onagers right here that can hit pretty much everything if it moves speed 1. So go ahead, drop to speed 0. I'm just delaying engagement. As you start accelerating into me, I can then just be like, hey, I'm going to shoot you. And I'm going to shoot you a lot. And it's going to take you a long time to get to me. Also, fun fact, this MC-80 should not be here. It should be right here. Ken just nicked the corner of it with the transport, just with activation order. When he moved, he just clicked it. He didn't think he was going to hit it, and that kept it pretty much all the way away. So that was one of Ken's mistakes here. And then because he rammed a ship, he can't use engine tech. So he went from, theoretically, this ship was going speed 3 forward to try to get out here and start akbaring some of my stuff. It got stuck way far behind. Not fun. Everything else just starts accelerating to get into engagement range. So that's really it for turn 1. And then you can see here, turn 2, these tokens are just focus firing anything that comes into this. This is like a hard kill zone with ignition. My Star Destroyer is moving up to try to clean up. And I have to do this maneuver here. And I jump my interdictor forward. And what that does is it ended up avoiding the side arc of this ship, which basically meant that I stayed alive. And Ken, I don't think, saw that coming because it was like a speed very slow to fast to try to get into it. And his fighters are here. Did I engage them yet? No, I pulled my fighters back because I was just going to throw them forward to lock them down. Because if I can lock Ken down and be in front arcs, then you can't shoot me at all with his ships because his ships would annihilate me. And then everything else is accelerating. So it's basically just, this turn is just free Onager shots, and next turn's free Onager shots because he won't ever be able to get anything in range. And then you can see, this is what it looks like when I actually take a picture with my ships on it. So the Starhawk goes down, but that's really no surprise because of how many Onager shots went into it. Like when you have 3 Onagers pointing to the same ship with Intel Officer, if you have any tokens left after the first round, that second round is going to kill it, especially when it's also being assisted by a Simoon, who landed on an asteroid. I did terrible with landing on asteroids this game, which has been a pattern for me recently, especially in these bigger games. Or even our last game, if you've watched that, spoiler for 9, I moved my Venator right into the asteroid field because I didn't have any navigation, and it just kept eating it. Nothing really else to make note. So now that these Onagers are done shooting the Starhawk, they're going to start shooting here. This is where I actually made a mistake. And I kept my ships at speed 0 one turn too many. After killing the Starhawk, they should have all started to rotate. But I still had this ship, and I thought I was going to take more shots than it ended up taking. And you can see that I have a lot of line of sight on it already. But this ship is going to be useless, if you draw the line of arc, if this ship dies. And it's almost dead. So at the end of last turn, when that, knowing that the Starhawk was going to die, I should have started moving these and rotating them downrange. I delayed one too many turn. But that's the problem when you go speed 0. Sometimes you just... like when you choose to accelerate becomes iffy. Also, before I note anything, another reason why Ken wanted to spread his ships out very fast, he actually told me this in person and then I just blanked on it, is because of the Onager special red crit ability, everything at speed 1. So the tighter formation that Ken kept, the worse it was off for him, because then I just shoot the middle ship and then I just ricochet 2 points of damage to all the shields around, or all the ships around him. So that means if I were to trigger that critical effect on a ship and splash it to multiple ships, that's like, if I only splash it to one ship, that's 6 free damage that I can be doing to a ship, which is a ton per turn. And so at this point, with it being like turn 3, theoretically I could have done 12 points of damage to a ship that's not the ship that I'm shooting at. So trying to keep his ships a little bit spaced out was one of Ken's purposes from deployment, and that's why he deployed how he did it as well. Just forgot about that and remembered. So this ship is just blocking this guy here, and then this interdictor is helping keep this ship alive. Until this point, it was doing pretty well because the front arc of MC-80s are pretty bad, and I have this guy hard locked where it is. And then, his cavalry comes in, and now I'm going to get double arced into oblivion from multiple ships coming in. But I've already taken care of Akbar. If Akbar was still alive when I engaged these ships, like these two potato ships ended up doing way more damage to me than I think his MC-80s did, just because of where range was and how fast they were able to maneuver into my side. If Akbar was still alive, this would have been really, really bad news for me if they weren't delayed on the other side of the table getting to me, and then I just didn't move. So if I move forward, the engagement range would be really messy, especially if they had gunnery teams, which is, again, the one card I would change in Ken's fleet. And then you can see I finally got around to start moving my ships, and it was one turn too late because I couldn't even turn it. Like, this ship is stuck here because of ramming. If I started slowly moving them the turn before, I wouldn't have to try to do this drastic jump. Like, let's go back. So from here to here, like if I took this turn to start turning them and pointing to them, I'm pointing at the screen, you guys can't see. If I took this turn to move them and start rotating where they're shooting down here, that would have been better, but I didn't. So instead I have to do these drastic turns to try to keep their guns lined up. I could have taken that slight turn and started moving and then flipped them harsh and pointed them farther down, but I didn't. And as you can see, this guy is now completely pretty much out of the game. Like, there's nothing he's going to be able to do. All of my stuff is still moving slowly. This guy actually stayed speed 0 for longer than I was planning on it, but that's because I didn't want to ram my own ship. And what kept him alive is this ship, because you need this ship to die because he's the lead ship. And like taking like 1 or 2 red dice obstructed against this ship at speed 0 isn't worth it. Like, here's 2 damage. I'm like, oh, okay, I got shields, cool. I'm not taking free ram damage every turn. And then this guy is just sitting here. So like, you need to kill this guy before this guy. And because of target planning, he's totally fine because he's protected at speed 0 because you were not going to be shooting at him. But this is like, clearly Ken's cavalry has arrived, but at this point, because of the speed 0 and me not moving, so him going speed 0 and me going speed 0, it's just a little bit too late. And I think this is where we ended up calling the game. And as you can see, like, my Onagers couldn't turn fast enough to get his cavalry ships in line, and then my ships are here, and we called it because nothing else was really going to kill anything. Like, I didn't have any of my big guns pointing at him. This guy, like, I could engage, but Ken can be over here. Like, there's just no good place for it. His ships, 2 ships, are full health. I have no actual arcs that are going to be shooting at it, so into game. That's about it. Let's look at in score. Where is that slide? There we go. So at the end of the game, Ken killed that interdictor and my fighters. I pretty much wiped out. Actually, he didn't lose this. Mistake on our end. But I ended up wiping out a lot of his ships. His squadrons, I ended up killing 1, which was fine with. My goal wasn't to kill squadrons. It was just to delay them and keep them where they were. So 148 points for killing Ken, because this interdictor is super expensive. And 574 points of worth of killing ships for me, which is 426 MOB, which at the higher scale is a 9-2. So that's pretty much it. And like I had already told you guys, a lot of this was just to demonstrate why Onagers are so powerful and broken. And as soon as you start scaling, like, a lot of times they're too much as 1, but when you can like actually like use 3 of them, it just becomes like ridiculously dumb. So I'll probably talk about that more in a few minutes. I'm going to look at the comments to see what you guys have to say. So if you have anything to say, or if you want to throw your 2 cents in on the Onager debate that we're about to have, or rant, whatever you want to call it, go ahead. So I'm going to scroll back, see what's going on. and then go from there. Okay, Tincoinsin says he was referring to the evades. Yes. Okay, so are we talking about then the evades on the Starhawk and how it's good, and probably the Super Star Destroyer? This is probably a conversation that I wasn't part of and then joined in later. Yes, the evade on the Starhawk actually really, really helped, because that first evade at extreme range cancels 2 dice. And then that next evade, because you're discarding it in a large ship, it doesn't matter. But, like, that's 2 more dice. Like, you negated 4 dice by spending it out, and you might as well spend it out because it's only good at long range. So, like, that initial attack, like, you can just get rid of all of the good doubles if I rolled a double or a crit. Like, if I only rolled 1 crit and you didn't want me to trigger it, you could do that. But Ken had Damage Control Officer, which negates my crit regardless because of the contain. So Ken was pretty set up with trying to use his Starhawk against me effectively. So Mariano asks, was this game used to show how broken Onagers are in sector fleet rules? I know how much you dislike them, but you still bring them and show them off on the videos. Yes, we both, well, Ken before this video liked Onagers and said, like, only a few tweaks here and there needed to be made. I'm very much so in the camp from the beginning that Onagers are broken and need a rework, period. In any size game, it really, really shows how broken they are when you're playing bigger games, when you're bringing 3. Like, what are you going to do to it? I brought no upgrades on it. I brought Intel Officer, and I brought the ability to place it at red range. And it's broken. Darth Vader gave me rerolls, but that's my commander ability. I spent good amount of points on that. But for point for the ship, Onagers are busted. I only brought 3. I could have dropped Vader's ship, saved some points, and brought a 4th one. Like, I think Ken, between the 2 of us, we own 5. So theoretically, I could fit 5 in. And at 5, they're only coming to like 110 points. 110 points, roughly, per. So I could have brought like 550 points worth of Onagers to a table, and then maybe brought like, what, an interdictor for the just ability to start you at speed 0, and then a Gazanti, and then I bring the I can shoot you on turn 1 stuff because it's funny. But yeah, you could bring an absurd amount of firepower to the table with them. And that's what makes it hard to make decisions on how to change Onager, is because they're broken at 1, they're broken at 2, they're broken at 3, and the more Onagers you add, the more broken they get. So let's see. I'm going to keep going on. So I'm not going to continue that because I'm going to come back to it in a minute. Cro-Magnum. I saw a forum post where someone suggested the Onager Star Destroyer was moved up to 120 points. Test bed is moved up to 106, and max speed is reduced to 2. Do you think that would balance things out? Are you sure this wasn't me? Because those are really a lot of the changes that I like to talk about. So again, I'm going to save that comment to the end, and we're just going to push it forward. As an Imperial player, I finally am happy that there is something good in the fleet. For a long time, it's been Riken fighters, CR90s, and now the point blank Starhawk. Well, Starhawk came out at the same time, and it has issues too, but I'm not going to touch on those right now. Imperials had a lot of good things going, even without Governor Price being the activation controlling person she is. The Imperial's 2 ship and like Sloan 2.5 ship is still some of the best fleets in the entire game. If you didn't have the Onager in it, that's what the Imperial would be running, because the Quasar is one of the best fighter pushers in the game until the Venator comes out. It's still really, really good for the Empire. Empire has amazing fighter alpha, and they have really, really good ship. And what you mentioned there, Riken's been nerfed like 3 times. CR90s, the problem with the CR90 is that it was one of the first ships made, so it wasn't balanced for the future of the game. So like TRCs and CR90s is broken, but I think I mentioned it last week that I really wish that the dice ramping was differently, and I don't think that Red dice should have doubles. If red dice didn't have doubles, the CR90 wouldn't be that bad, because you wouldn't be able to guarantee like doing like 6 damage a turn with it, with TRCs. So like the Imperial are still good. The Onager was specifically, I keep talking about how to save it, but like the Onager was specifically made to counter rebel nonsense, especially like you can actually just see the delay in competitive and the answers that came out in release waves. So we were being plagued by Riken and Akbar fish farms in the competitive scene. So the answer to that was, we want to make a ship that can attack the fish farm as it's earning literally 150 plus points per turn against you, and then has so many activations that it doesn't matter. You're going to get close to it, and then it's going to hit you with like a defiant Akbar shot every single turn. With like, and like you have like choice. You can give it the 150 points, or you have to choose advanced gunnery, and then advanced gunnery is just going to melt you every turn with Akbar. Like, it's not fun. So instead of playing like to counter the fleet that just sits there and earns points, they made the Onager that makes it so that, oh, I can now shoot you at longer range, so then you're going to actually have to move. But the problem is, it just made a even worse fish farm, because now the fish farm can sit there. It's an Imperial player. We're going to be able to have the objective controlling ability, which is with the interdictors. The interdictors were made to counter objective shenanigans that the rebels could do with their fish farm, and I can shoot you. So it's just better fish farm. So we traded fish farm, which could be countered and was working toward being countered, especially with the elimination of things like strategic advisor and pass tokens, and the flotilla nerf, and the nerf to Riken. Like, those changes were made during the process probably that the Onager was being made. And so the issues that we were seeing that the Onager was made to address were already addressed and changed by the time the Onager came out. And guess what? We've had no development or nerfing to the Onager, which really, really needs it, because now we traded fish farm for like Onager interdictor farming, and it's just not fun to play. Like, LVO was one of my lists that's literally known as the list of thanks for playing, because it doesn't allow you to play. It's just, oh, I choose second, and I annihilate you with the Onager from range. Just one, so just changing things to be unique doesn't change it, because none of those changes will change it. And then he has 2 interdictors to keep it alive that just milk farm tokens the entire game from his objectives. So basically you choose surprise attack, and then he one-shots your flagship. Wow, that's a lot of fun to play. And if he doesn't one-shot your flagship, he surrounds the outpost with tokens, so that if you move, then you're taking hull damage because of mines. And because you're spreading at speed 0, that means that if you don't move it and you just leave it there, it's dead because of the Onager. And if you do move it, that means you're hitting mines almost guaranteed, because you're only really going to be able to speed up to speed 1. Cool. This game sucks. Onager's the problem. And having only one of it doesn't really matter, because like I said, the winning list at LVO and a lot of these tournaments and all the online tournaments have one Onager in it. So just making something unique doesn't change it. So it needs a fundamental change from the base ground up on how the Onager works and the ignition token works. That's more of my rant. I'm going to go back to comments, and then I'll probably come back to that after I gather more thoughts. I get change will come. It always does, but worry that AMG will do like in X-Wing. I'm fine if they do what is in X-Wing. A lot of people complain about what happened in X-Wing, but if you look at what X-Wing was, where it is now, I think it's in a healthier position, because it's fundamentally changed so you can't cheese the system. What you really want for a balanced game is that you can't just cheese the game. And what the Onager for Armada does is it allows you to cheese the game. X-Wing had a lot of cheese in it of, I guess I just go first and then you die. So that won't be happening because it's random now. So eliminating that cheese and adding the randomness into it actually makes it a more balanced game. That's my opinion. I don't play X-Wing, but I do follow the rules on it. And if they hardcore came in and did that, that's fine. I want a healthy game. Onager makes the game not healthy at all. The old battle strategies. Why do you call assault frigates potato ships? Because they're ugly. And that's what they're known as since the beginning. They're like this giant potato. It has like weird growths coming off on it. And then it's like, you know, that stem that's growing because you left it in the basement for too long. That's why it's known as a potato ship. Ken actually just said that. Cool. And other people, because it's kind of lumpy. Ken, the big black ship on the tripod is finally overhead. John, clearly we need to buy 1 or 2 more Onagers till we fill an 800-point list. This is a joke, fellas. Yeah, I don't really want to play 8 Onagers. I don't think either of us will ever do that. Chromegger, if I was to add one thing to the list of changes, would be making it use tokens to drop the aim token. Yes. Okay. So I've caught up with comments. So let's talk about how I would change the Onager. The Onager is too cheap. So we'll start with that. It needs a point increase. So the reason, someone asked this in the comments, I think on YouTube the other day, or Discord, or both, but people were asking, why do you only see the test bed? Like, the Star Destroyer is technically the better ship, and it's straight up cost. The Star Destroyer version of the Onager costs 110 points, versus 96 points for the test bed. That's a significant point difference when you're talking about upgrades. And as I showed, I put 14 points of upgrades, right? I think that's what the red range for that is. Let's see. No, it's even cheaper than that. Oh my gosh, it's just broken cheap. So I put 12 points of upgrades on my Onager. 12. That's it. And you saw what it does. Like, you could put another 6 points on there and add the card that allows you to reroll all your dice, all of them once, which is what you see standard on Onagers, especially like the LVO winning lists and things like that. And so that brings up a total, like if you just switch out Intel Officer and you put that, and then you have rerolls. And so that means you can equip a test bed for less than a naked Star Destroyer Onager. And the Star Destroyer Onager's initiation attack is weaker because you want to shoot as many dice at as long range as possible, and when you're talking, you can put a token out at long range, and then your red dice shoot at long range. The Star Destroyer only has 3 red dice versus the test bed's 4, so you're shooting technically less at longer ranges. And then the blue range is only like this big, so like you're losing a lot of distance in attack firepower to trade for the 2 blue dice. It's a bad trade. And then you trade out a black dice, again a bad trade. So the test bed has a better ignition firing and is cheaper. What? Wait, what? Really? Yeah, that makes sense. So I can completely equip a Onager test bed for less points than a Star Destroyer Onager, and it's a better ship for what it's supposed to be doing, which is shooting long range dice at long ranges. Oh, okay. What? It's also 96 points, which is absurd. Like, if you made the Onager test bed, just the test bed version, 120 points, people would still take it. So the Onager test bed needs a minimum of 15 points to 20 points increase to bring it in line with a normal Star Destroyer. It's supposed to be like a super fragile, like glass cannon ship that's super rare. So why is it so cheap? Like, even an interdictor. An interdictor, you're specifically paying a tax on a medium-based ship to have the ability to take its special cards. And the cost for that is 90 and 93 points. And it's talked about how it's technically too expensive. And it's almost the same price as the large base Onager ship. Like, even inside the Imperial faction, did they forget to Imperial tax it? Like, every single ship in the Imperial fleet pays an Imperial tax, except the Onager, which is the one that breaks the fleets. Makes no sense. So then if you increase the test bed's value up and increase slightly the Onager Star Destroyer testbed, we might see a little bit a difference in fleet. So like my thing is like, make the Onager testbed 120 points and make the Onager Star Destroyer 125. So there's a 5-point difference, and then there's something to consider. But as of right now, those aren't hard and fast numbers. But as of right now, like, both of them are too cheap. Next thing. Why is it speed 3 with the option of having engine tech? So it's a pseudo speed 4 ship. Name another pseudo speed 4 ship out there. Let's see, the Liberty. Liberty is pretty bad, and you need engine techs for it to move. But why are you making a glass cannon? Its name is an Onager, which is a type of catapult. Why is it going speed 3? It should go like speed 1, speed 2, so there's a weakness to it. But right now it's like, I go speed 0, I shoot you a couple turns, and then whatever I kill, I just accelerate really fast away so you can't touch me. What? Why is it one of the most maneuverable large ships? One of the cheapest large ships, and it can shoot 2 feet away from it. That doesn't make any sense. And that's just talking about the chassis. Like, how did this make it through test play? Like, did you guys not, like, throw, like, 6 of them down and just annihilate another fleet? Like, how? Like, honestly, I don't know. Like, even if you just built, like, because I think you can easily fit 3 of them into a fleet, especially at 96 points with the commander. How did testing not be like, so I played 3 of them today, and I wiped out the entire opponent's fleet before they were able to move? So maybe we should look at balancing for that. Like, honestly, like, how did that get through it? And then, like, oh, and then the crits are, like, super, super powerful, and they give you the ability to shoot longer. Oh, okay. Which brings me to my next point, which you need a mini game to be able to do it. Like, the spats are fun. They're not overpowered to play against. They're good. But, like, you have to have so much control over your fleet to get them to function right. Like, you need concentrate fires to refresh them. They're way shorter range. They're blue dice, which is really, really important to this conversation, which is why I said earlier that I wish that red dice didn't have doubles on it, is because the damage potential curve is capped. So it's 5 blue dice and a black dice. So that means if you roll perfectly, with just blue dice, that's 5 damage. 5 damage is a significant amount, but it's not obscene. So, like, if you get an accuracy, it's 4 damage. Okay, that's reasonable. I don't brace, I take 4 damage. That's the front shields of a ship. Or I punch through to the hull of a ship. It's not killing anything in one shot. If you're at close range to it, which means that you're inside long range at that point, you're not at extreme ranges for the spat, you get to add a black dice, which makes your damage, if you roll perfectly, 7, which isn't unreasonable. That's like taking a front of an ISD2. Okay, I can deal with that. And then you have this whole mini game to play behind it of, like, honestly, you basically only take them with Tarkin because Tarkin gives you concentrate fire, which is fine, but you're playing a premium in dictating your commander to it just so it can function. So you need to, like, spend a token to refresh it so then you can put it back out. Like, there's a mini game to it. And the ignition token should have a mini game. It shouldn't just be automatically every single turn without doing a darn thing, shooting 2 feet away from the ship, sitting at speed 0 in your deployment zone collecting tokens. Like, it's just absurd. Making it have a refresh cost to place it, I think would help it. The problem with it, though, is that it has it innately. So, like, you don't even need to bring any of the special weapon cards for it. Like, it still can place ignition token at close range and shoot its red dice at long range, which means that you're shooting normal range plus close range every single turn. That's still pretty far. So, like, even if those cards were more points, you'd still take them. And there's no mini game to be played for it. So now let's talk about ignition as a whole. Ignition as a whole, like I said, needs to have a mini game to play because that's what makes, like, spats kind of fun. It's fun to play watching your opponent, like, figure out how to move tokens around their fleet to make it work. And the damage curve is stabilized, so, like, you do maximum without a concentrate fire with a spat of 7 points of damage. You can figure out how to do it. While a maximum on an Onager is at such a long range that the red dice mean that you can get doubles and accuracies, and then you're like re-rolling handfuls of dice, and then you have Ramadi that's adding more dice into it because that's fun and fair, and it's obstructed so you can't even shoot back at it well. Like, it just ramps out of control. Like, if you watch the last match of LVO, one, they played it wrong because they let the guy set up all the obstacles. That's not how surprise attack works, and that really screwed the person that lost. But he one-shot a CR90 at extreme range because he rolled his dice, he spent his accuracies. He rolled his dice again with the upgrade card, spent his accuracies. And then at that point, he got all the accuracies, so no defense tokens aren't worth it. And then he used his ability to use Darth Vader, choke out his officer, and then just rolled perfectly. And it's like, oh, here, take 2 accuracies, a handful of doubles, and a crit, you're dead. It just takes that interaction between the players away. At longer ranges, like, impossible to engage. It's very infuriating. So, back to Ignition. I think Ignition should be able to be salvoed at the appropriate ranges. So, of course, like, if you're shooting at extreme range against a ship, no other ship has extreme range, so you can't salvo it. But if I'm at long range or medium range or close range to the ship, which is where the range is to be determined for, I should be able to salvo it. It should have a weakness like that. That's all I'm saying. So basically, it needs to change in cost. It needs to not be able to move speed 3. It needs to have a mini game being able to be played to make it function. So then you actually have to think about using it instead of just dumb mode and just firing 2 feet away. I think you should be able to salvo it. I'm not going to get a change to red dice, but they should have had a red dice damage curve figured out better. The 2 on it makes no sense because it's supposed to be a long range, like pew 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 shot. Oh, it gets a lucky hit in. That's why it has a double. But it doesn't balance well with the rest of the game as we're looking forward, especially with like TRCs with CR90s, which is what I was talking about earlier. So those are my changes suggestions. So you guys can comment what you think about that. You can even comment in the video or come to Discord. I'm open to talking about Onagers all the time. It'll just get ranty, so get ready for that. Okay. I like to get the Home 1 title on the MC80 in a big battle, particularly with Akbar commanding. I 100% agree, DR. Home 1 is it's a good card to begin with, especially if you're playing Akbar at 400 points. But then when you ramp it up to like 800 points, like, holy cow, Home 1 as the command ship is like, hey everyone, have a token of accuracy, just flip something to an accuracy, have fun, block everything. Magnum says they should switch the VIX moving chart with the Onagers. What's funny about that is that's exactly the conversation that Kenna and I had after this game. And then we actually were talking about it again last week. Like, my thing is, like, Onager would be fine at speed 1. 1. It most of the time's only moving speed 1, so who really cares about it? It doesn't need to move faster. Like, just give it a double click. Just let it sit there, be a glass cannon, not move fast. Like, that's how you can counter it. Clearly, you just get around it. And you're going to be able to get around it if it's only going speed 1. Like, they made the Super Star Destroyer before this speed 2 with no clicks because, it needed an engine or a navigate to do it, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's thought off. It's not broken. You don't see it really competitively because why would you bring a Super Star Destroyer into a world that has Onagers and it just annihilates it from long range? You wouldn't, but like, you could have done something interesting like that, made it literally a cannon, and then that would allow other titles of it to take place, like the Rochelle. Like, being able to drop to speed 0 and still do a click is kind of cool, but it's useless in a game that I could just be moving speed 3 with engine tech and just, like, do a complete circle around with a nav. Like, if you could just leave it there and do a speed 0 turn, it would be worthwhile to bring that title. But right now the title doesn't matter because, who cares? I could just move speed 3, circle around you, and shoot you from 2 feet away from now across the table. Da, 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 da. But yeah, like, make a Vic. Also, I think to fix the Vic, this is just me. I was talking about it on Discord a couple weeks ago. Make it speed 3. Like, give it a straight speed 3, no turns, so then it can move across the table. I think would help fix the Vic as a whole. And who cares? Like, it's just a crappier acclimator, and that's why people are like, well, it's just a worse acclimator. Yeah, but right now it's just a really, really bad acclimator in the game because it can't move speed 3. And the Harrow title, the way it fixed it, which makes them useful, allows you to take Engine Tech, which is, again, a points tax on top of a ship that's too many points, to allow it to go speed 3, pseudo speed 3. Like, just give it native speed 3. That's my opinion. Like, if the game was designed by me, that's what I would do. I would probably make other changes. And then Tiscoin, I believe, is agreeing with Cro-Magners. Switch the speed charts for the Onager and the Victory. I'm right there with you. DR says maybe no accuracies can be spent at extreme range. I 100% agree. That was actually my last point, and then I forgot because new dad brain. But that's part of the changes to Ignition I would make. Like, allow it to be salvoed, and like no accuracy at extreme range. It changes the fundamentals of it. Like, then I wouldn't really even have that much of a problem with it, but you would just be re-rolling your accuracies and trying to get hits. But like, why? Like, you're gonna focus in at extreme range on a small ship, blocking its evades, and then beaming through it with double red dice. Like, a lot of hard trip. Okay, you old battle strategist. In the old Star Wars lore, the Onager was basically a mini Death Star. I think that the developers intentionally put an overpowered ship. Yes, but putting something overpowered into a game doesn't work for a game because you don't want overpowered things in a game. You want game balance. And when you make something that breaks the rules, you have imbalance to the game. So you need to... So every card breaks the rules. So if you look at, I think it's the fundamentals, like the pillars of making games, like you have your core rules and then the cards allow you to break rules. And you should only be able to allow cards to be broken and rules to be broken in a certain way to control how the game works. And we see this when you see ships like, or commanders like Riken. Riken has been hardcore nerfed like 3-4 times because he allowed the player to break the game rules in a specific way. But they made it overpowered. Like, originally it was like everything could be kept alive for forever as many times as you want. So he always got the last laugh, last shot on every single thing that you killed, and it made it really, really hard to kill. He's nerfed to the point that people don't really bring him anymore, but I'm fine with it. He's actually sits pretty good in his place. So, like, breaking the rules is fine to a limit. Now let's talk about another card that's been nerfed into oblivion multiple times because it specifically breaks rules. That would be Demolisher. Demolisher completely breaks the rules of the game. It allows you to move, then shoot. And that's basically what the Onager does. The demo doesn't have as much range as an Onager. And it can't bring the same amount of firepower as an Onager because now the Gladiator's at close range. And it, again, is a pseudo Speed 4 ship. So let's look at the two ships. You have people have complained since the beginning about demo being broken. It's a pseudo Speed 4 ship that can deliver dice outside or right at long range. The Onager is also a pseudo Speed 4 ship. What? Those two are the same speed? Like a fast little close range missile attack and then like a cannon move the same speed in the game. Okay. And the Onager actually has more range and is better at getting black dice into range into a ship than the Demolisher, which has been known to be broken since day one. Why bring an overpowered ship into the game? It doesn't scale. It breaks the game. If they were actually active in making this game right now, which they supposedly have done a developer, first thing they should do is come up with ways to nerf the Onager into oblivion. The second groups of cards that broke a game specifically to the detriment of the game is like Governor Price and Bale and Strategic Advisor, which really broke the game, specifically Price, because it allowed you to go first, but in a turn go last and then go first again, which is a huge problem, first lasting, and then guaranteeing that you first last with the Star Destroyer and all the Imperial Alpha Strike card fighters at the same time is super broke. That's why we saw almost a solid year plus of price to ship dominating everything. That's how broken that card is. That's what we have with Onagers again. So I know people were complaining about Riken, but like Riken controlled the meta for like the first couple of years, and then since then Imperial have sat there and controlled everything. You have Demo, you have Price, and now you have Onager. Broken Thing didn't learn their lesson, release Price. Broken Thing didn't learn their lesson, release Onager. Could you imagine what an Onager could do with Price? Bleh. No fun. So if I was to make changes, I would do small point changes, 114 on the S Star Destroyer and 106 for the test bed. I'd change the move chart to speed 2, and finally I would move all of the ranges back 1, so red is blue. I can dig that. I'll dig that. So my question to you, Chroma Magner, is if you do something like that, would the other beam, which we don't ever see because you actually just want to throw dice out, would that be also blue range or would that be close range? Because if it was the same range as the other one, you might see competition between the two, and then you might see more Star Destroyer version of it. Then you say no natural black range shot. I'm cool with that too. Cool. Yeah. That would be a gentle change, but you probably never see that because changing a speed chart in updating that type of card probably won't ever happen. So we're only going to see bans, card erratas, and maybe point changes, but point changes don't really happen very often either. So like we're very limited. Like they released a broken ship, and at this point it's like ban the ship and start over, because everyone has cardboard, everyone has cards, and at least FFG has been very hesitant in the past of making erratas to cards like ship cards. Like they like FAQing and they like point changes more is I think what what's his name, the rule guy, has talked about in the past, than necessarily Karnak. Karnak has said like there's like a very tier list of changes that they want to do, and it's like FAQ, and they'll change what the actual intent of the card written is, to change things, and they would prefer doing that than actually errataing a card or changing the points of the card. So like what we've seen changes wise is probably not going to change the ship radically, which is sad. Really, really sad. But that's why, like what someone said earlier, I don't remember who, I apologize. Someone said something about the black X-Wing and how they came in and they rolled out some drastic changes. That's what Armada needs right now. We've been living in this realm of now almost, I think, 2+ years of Onagers, because it was supposed to come out right before Worlds went live. So there was like maybe one regional event that had an Onager in it. So Onager and Starhawks aren't really tested out in the wild and competitive in real life because COVID happened. Well, I've been saying since the very beginning that the Onagers need to be relooked at because they be broke, yo. But we haven't had hard data besides online, and I don't do online stuff, the legality, and I don't have time and I don't want to learn. But technically, Onagers have been dominating in that now for 2+ years, but they're not looking at that data, and AMG cannot look at that data because then acknowledging that exists infringes on their copyrights, so they're never going to look at any of the data from any online events. So they need hard core evidence based on events in real life. So the Onager has been out in the wild for 2+ years, unhinged, and we're still seeing Onagers win everything. So until we have like a whole cycle of regionals and of big events that Onagers are wrecking face in, we won't see any changes. That's even if we get a developer. So we're a year plus with living with Onager nightmare hell until it gets changed. That's my opinion. So preach it. Yeah, I have no problem talking about how I want this nerfed. Chrome Magner says yes, the current blue would go to black. Okay. I actually prefer the other one, but like again, like they wrote it out of existence for use be set on like a test bed. It's supposed to be used on the Star Destroyer version of it, the other card. I can't even remember what the other card is. Also, like, just switch out all the red dice on all the ignition attacks to blue dice, and it just stabilizes it so much better. Just change it to blue dice only, and then you don't even have to worry about the range, because then it's not as far into the range realm if they're blue dice. So maybe just change all the ignition dice to just blue dice. If it's red, it goes blue. If it's blue, it stays blue. If it's black, it's black. Maybe that will change the damage curve. It will be more accuracies, but we'll pretend that you can't use accuracies at extreme range, which is, again, an easy rule change into the main rule book. So, yeah, all those things are good. Good ideas. Okay, so I've ranted quite a bit on this. I've enjoyed being back with you guys. Backseat Admiral is way better live, because then I can interact with you, and then it's just not me lost in my thoughts. When I recorded it the last couple of times, I'm still lost in my thoughts, but now I'm lost interacting with you guys, and it's a lot more fun that way. So I want to thank everyone to coming on board and talking with me about this stuff. So, spoiler for this week, this is like our off week before Madness starts, which Ken and I, every single time so far between seasons, we'll do like a robot game. If you haven't noticed, the robot is officially a collaborator with the channel. We have a discussion where our friend is going to be posting rule changes, and you can ask him how to use it on there. So this time, Ken has pulled out a discussion from way back in May 2021, which is quite a while now. It's almost a year. And it was regarding Angeline and Ghost both put forward fleets, and they were debating which one of those fleets would win. And I believe it was like a Grievous versus Luminara fleet. And I like pseudo remember this conversation. Again, it was a year ago. But Ken remembered it, wrote down the list, and he has a robot versus robot battle to determine which of these fleets would win. I haven't seen it yet because I've been really busy. So I'll be there watching it with you guys, as surprised as you are of the outcome. So I think that's going to be a fun battle to see two fleets talked by our Discord people. The debate was real. I remember that. They were going back and forth about it. And we can see which of those two fleets will win. So that's coming up this coming Friday. And then after that, the madness begins. So if you haven't already, Ken posted a document or a picture so you can write on it. Pretty easy into our Discord. So if you want to fill out an actual bracket, you can do that and submit it. We're going to gather it, and it's just going to be like a fun, we'll talk about who can, get the perfect bracket, or who do you think is going to win. That's what makes Madness fun, and you can have all those conversations up on our Discord. Big shout out to all of our Patreon members. They help us upgrade and do things with the channel that we wouldn't be otherwise. If you haven't already, check out Tater's Ship Shot. You can buy some official range rulers and things that have the Ion Radio symbol on it, which look pretty good, just like the things that we used on our channel. We also have like a shirt shop if you wanted to get like a hat or a mug or a sweatshirt with our stuff on it too. That's all available in the descriptions of our videos, so check those out. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Also, stay tuned. Ken and I and Ion Radio have a collaboration that's going to be starting very soon that we're really excited about talking about. So there's your first spoiler of it. More news to follow very shortly. Having a baby really threw that all off, but having a baby throws pretty much your entire life off. So, but we're moving forward with this new project, and we're super excited to introduce all the players and what it's going to be to you, and that's probably going to be announced officially and moving forward in the next 2-ish weeks. Don't pin me on that too hard, but there's going to be an announcement with stuff coming out very shortly. So I think that's about it that I want to talk about. Like always, you're more than welcome to come and talk with me in Discord, talk to me in comments. Ken and I pretty much try to respond to all of the comments on all of our videos. So if you ever have a question, hit us up there, or just come talk to us on Discord. We're there as well. Also, a lot of people in our Discord, I don't remember specifically who, they talk a lot about different fleet builds, and sometimes I look away for a second, I look back, and there's like 100 messages because it's absurd, because they're just talking about fleet build. So if that's something that's interested you, not necessarily to even participate in, just to read different thoughts, yeah, totally come check out the Discord for that. I'll spoil that it's not Ion Radio Con. Sorry, Cro-Magnon. Not yet. That's not the announcement. So cross that one off your list. There will be something coming out though soon. So thank you very much for watching. I'm John. This has been the Backseat Admiral, and you've been watching Ion Radio.